Brahma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Hite Namani.
I was born into a vegetarian family. They practiced yoga and followed the philosophy of Connie Mendes, an impersonal philosophy, but rooted in yoga and principles like not eating meat. That was my upbringing. At the same time, I attended a Roman Catholic school. So from a young age, I was exposed to both yoga, the idea of having a teacher, and that whole atmosphere because of my parents' practices. When I first saw Srila Prabhupada, I was already living in the temple as a devotee. I had been there for 2 years when he visited Caracas in 1975. I want to share something that happened on the first day Srila Prabhupada sat on the Vyasasana in Caracas to give a talk. His voice broke as he began chanting along with all the devotees who were seated in the temple hall. Srila Prabhupada was deeply joyful to see so many devotees gathered, and he started to sing the bhajan Parama Karuna Pahudvijana. But as he sang, his voice broke again. He was gazing at the altar the whole time. On the altar were the deities of Sri Sri Gauranitai, whom he had personally named Parama Karuna at the time of their installation. Srila Prabhupada was so pleased to see the deities, to see all of us, that he began singing this song in devotion to Sri Sri Gauranitai. But he became so overwhelmed with happiness that he had to stop singing. He looked at us and said, "You are so fortunate because here in this temple you have these two Prabhus with you." That moment left a very deep impression on all of us. It was something truly incredible. Another memory with Srila Prabhupada. Today, I visited the room upstairs in the Los Angeles temple and saw how Srila Prabhupada liked everything to be arranged in a certain way. It reminded me of something that happened in Caracas when he arrived there. We had prepared a very nice room for him, but the devotees decided not to put any curtains where he was going to rest. They thought that the curtains would take away from the beauty of the wooden blinds. But when Srila Prabhupada went to take rest, the sunlight from the garden came directly through the windows and he couldn't rest properly. So he asked for dark curtains to be made so he could rest peacefully during the few hours he had available to sleep. Hridayananda Maharaj, who at that time was our temple president, our GBC, basically the main authority, went upstairs from Srila Prabhupada's quarters and asked a female devotee to go down and take the measurements to make the curtains for the next night. When I heard that, I immediately said, I want to do it. I grabbed my scissors and everything I needed. But Maharaj told me, "Go downstairs to take the measurements once Srila Prabhupada leaves his bedroom to go into his office." Because he had two rooms, one for resting and one for working. But I was so excited that I didn't wait for any further instructions. I ran down straight away. When I arrived, my guru was sitting quietly at his small table, just like this. And I said, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, I explained I was there to take the measurements for the curtains." He looked at me with a huge smile. I felt like I should leave. I thought maybe I had come at the wrong time. Then Hridayananda Maharaj came in, and Srila Prabhupada said in English, "Come in, come in." So I came in, set up a small three-step tool, and began taking measurements. Srila Prabhupada was watching me the whole time. Everything I did, he observed. When I finished, I felt like my body had become huge. I was so full of emotion. I felt like I had entered another world. Then Srila Prabhupada looked at me smiling and asked Hridayananda Maharaj, did she have any knowledge of how to do this before becoming a devotee? Hridayananda Maharaj replied, no, she learned it here at the temple. Srila Prabhupada smiled again and said, in this life, you'll be able to do everything. One day we went for a morning walk in the park with Srila Prabhupada. As he walked, he told us that by following this process properly, just as he taught us, we could return to Krishna in this very lifetime. He was speaking this for the benefit of all the devotees. A devotee, a Mataji who was walking beside me, quietly said, almost under her breath, oh, it's impossible that I could do that in this lifetime with this process. She didn't say it loudly. Prabhupada didn't physically hear her, but somehow he sensed it. He suddenly turned around and said, in this life, with this process, we all go back to Krishna, okay? I made a rocking chair for Srila Prabhupada. I was out doing Sankirtan, and Srila Prabhupada was arriving in Venezuela in just 3 days. While I was out, I saw a really beautiful rocking chair, and I wanted to get it for him. So I bought it. But I didn't have a car at the time. I had to take the bus. And it was very difficult because I had to convince the bus driver to let me place the rocking chair on top of the bus. It was a whole ordeal. But finally, I managed to bring it back. And that rocking chair ended up being very well received by Srila Prabhupada. I added cushions on the sides and in the back. Srila Prabhupada used that chair to spend time outside in the garden. He would chant japa, give interviews, and just enjoying being there. He was very happy in that garden. And he was also very pleased that I had made that rocking chair for him. Before Srila Prabhupada came to Venezuela in 1975, Shultrakirti Prabhu visited our temple. He came to help us because at that time there weren't many devotees who had much experience. Srila Prabhupada had sent Shultrakriti to teach us, especially how to cook. He didn't stay for very long, just a few months to teach. When Srila Prabhupada finally came to Caracas, Shrutakirti came with him. One day, Prabhupada walked into the kitchen. We would always follow him around, trying to see how we could serve, eager to receive some mercy, right? And I was there when this happened. Srila Prabhupada asked Shrutakirti, Prabhu, among all the devotees here in the kitchen, who learned how to cook? Shrutakirti began pointing, him, and her. He pointed at me. Then Srila Prabhupada looked at me and said, okay, you make the chapatis and you make the kachoris. He was talking to me. And I said, yes. He left and I immediately tried to figure out how to make the kachoris. But after a little while, Srila Prabhupada came back into the kitchen. He had come to personally teach me how to prepare the dough for the kachoris, and he stayed there to help me make them. That's why I always say I am a really good cook, because Srila Prabhupada himself taught me. To me, when I looked at Srila Prabhupada, I could see all his qualities, every single one. He was always loving, always looking at everyone with such care and attention. He had such a peaceful and kind nature. He never got upset with anyone. And even when he needed to correct someone, he did it gently, with compassion. I could clearly see who Srila Prabhupada was. In fact, I once told him, "You are my eternal teacher." And he replied, "Yes, I am your eternal teacher." I think that Srila Prabhupada was very loving and mindful of all the devotees in general. Yes, that's my feeling. At the temple, there are always some crazy people. Sometimes we get folks who are a little wild. There was a Bhaktin who always caused trouble. She would wear the brahmachari's dhotis like saris and everything. So when Srila Prabhupada was about to arrive at the temple, the authorities decided that she shouldn't be present to prevent any trouble while Srila Prabhupada was there, because no one could control her. They decided to put her in a car and drive her to the beach, then leave her there so she wouldn't be around when Srila Prabhupada arrived. And that's exactly what happened. A devotee took her to the beach, left her there, and came back. But she was very quick and found another way back. When Srila Prabhupada arrived, she was already on the rooftop of the house. Srila Prabhupada came in and greeted all the devotees who were showering flower petals. As he walked by, she shouted from a little hole above, "Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna!" Srila Prabhupada looked up and said, "Oh, perfect! She chanted Hare Krishna." That was the crazy lady, and Srila Prabhupada gave her his blessings. We were all quite surprised. We had made all these arrangements to keep her away, yet Srila Prabhupada clearly heard her and recognized that she chanted the holy name perfectly. It was very impressive. Later, when he was leaving, returning to the United States, to Los Angeles, at the airport, before leaving, Srila Prabhupada gave a Bhagavad Gita class, and he told all of us that one should always follow the spiritual master as much as possible, that all the devotees should take full advantage of the association of their spiritual master. We all heard that and said, "We are not going to let him leave without us being there. We are all going to the airport to see Srila Prabhupada off, right?" Because he just said this. So the devotees, all in a rush and disorganized, many without shoes, jumped into cars barefoot, just like that, to go see off Srila Prabhupada. When we arrived, the police opened one of the vehicles, a big truck, and saw everyone barefoot. They said, "No, no, this can't be allowed." But we just kept going. We reached the airport and Srila Prabhupada was getting ready to leave. We had brought a tray of fruit for Srila Prabhupada to honor. A seat was prepared with a cloth for him, and we all sat around him happily at the airport. Srila Prabhupada sat down, and everyone came, travelers, workers, all kinds of people came to see Srila Prabhupada. We were all sitting there, and so many others joined. Everyone was happy. I used to do Sankirtan at the airport, so I knew people weren't usually like that. But when they saw Srila Prabhupada, everyone was drawn to him. Srila Prabhupada was very pleased. He looked at everyone and said, "Is there prasadam for them?" Hridayananda Maharaj replied, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada, we brought a tray of fruit for you." Then Srila Prabhupada said, "Okay, bring it." He took a little, then said, "Distribute it so everyone can have prasadam." It was so beautiful. We were all distributing and everyone was eating happily. No one refused. Everyone was joyful to receive his remnants from the tray. Then Srila Prabhupada left. He was going up the escalator and all of us were chanting, "Jai Srila Prabhupada." It was beautiful.
Je anilo premadana Karuna prachu Jai Anilo Prema Dana